There's a lie most people believe their entire lives, that the most intelligent men are those who speak best, study the most, or have the most degrees. It seems logical to think that way. After all, we've been taught from a young age that intelligence means accumulating knowledge. But what if I told you that the people who are hardest to fool are almost never those who know the most, but rather those who observe best? Think for a moment about how many times you trusted someone who seemed sincere and ended up disappointed. How many opportunities you missed because you believed the wrong words. How many times did you realize too late that the signs were all right in front of your eyes, but you simply didn't know how to interpret them? The truth is uncomfortable. Almost no one is deceived due to a lack of intelligence. Most are deceived because they only see what they want to see. Machiavelli understood this more than 500 years ago. While almost everyone sought to understand how people should be, he decided to study how they really were. This difference completely changed his way of seeing power, human relationships, and survival itself. His vision was based on a more politics guided by reality, not by ideals, because he knew that the world rewards those who understand human nature as it is, and not as they would like it to be. Throughout this video, you will discover silent habits that make some people virtually impossible to manipulate. You will understand why "better to be feared than loved" is one of the most misunderstood phrases in history, how the appearance of virtue can hide intentions completely different from reality, and why decisions based on true human nature produce far superior results to decisions made solely on emotion. You will also understand the true meaning of virtù and fortuna, when the end justifies the means, can be interpreted strategically, and why the calculated use of force, combined with constant adaptability, makes such a difference in the lives of those who wish to build power without becoming hostages to circumstances. But there's a detail that few people notice. Once you learn to see these patterns, it becomes virtually impossible to look at people the same way again. Ordinary conversations begin to reveal hidden intentions. Small gestures start to say more than long speeches, and situations that once seemed simple begin to show a depth that most never perceive. The question is, are you prepared to discover what almost no one dares to see? If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now, not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There's a silent difference between people who are constantly surprised by others' actions and those who are almost never caught off guard. Interestingly, this difference isn't linked to intelligence level, the number of books someone has read, or the amount of experience accumulated over the years. It stems from a much more discrete skill, the ability to observe what most ignore. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he advocated for a politics guided by reality, not ideals, showing that those who wish to understand human behavior must abandon the illusion that everyone acts exactly as they say they do. While many listen to speeches, truly strategic people pay attention to what happens behind the scenes. While some are impressed by promises, others analyze patterns. That's precisely where the true competitive advantage in life begins. Whether the scenario is a relationship, a friendship, a company, or a multi-million-dollar negotiation, the winner is the one who can perceive invisible movements before they produce visible consequences. This way of seeing the world doesn't transform someone into a cold, distrustful, or paranoid person. On the contrary, it allows you to build stronger relationships, make smarter decisions, and avoid unforeseen pain. After all, virtù and fortuna go hand in hand, but luck usually favors those who have learned to observe before acting. Perhaps that's exactly why so many people seem lucky, when in reality they have simply developed a trained eye to see what goes unnoticed by almost everyone else. The most interesting thing is that this skill isn't innate. It can be built, strengthened, and refined daily, like a muscle that grows as it receives constant stimulation. Think of an experienced chess player. While a beginner only sees the piece that has just been moved, the master can visualize dozens of possibilities hidden a few moves ahead. Life works the same way. There's a huge difference between looking and truly observing. There's an even greater difference between listening and understanding the true intentions hidden behind words. Machiavelli never suggested that people should live distrusting everything and everyone. What he taught was something much more sophisticated. Decisions based on real human nature always produce superior results to decisions based solely on hope. This perspective explains why so many leaders overcome seemingly impossible crises, while others fail at the first obstacles. They understood that the end justifies the means only when the means are chosen intelligently, with a correct reading of the environment and constant adaptability in the face of inevitable changes. And there's a detail that almost no one notices. All this ability begins with a very common mistake that most people make every day, without even imagining how vulnerable it makes them. There is one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop without realizing it, believing that what someone says automatically represents who that person is. It seems harmless, but one only needs to observe one's own life to realize how many disappointments have arisen precisely from this confusion. Promises charm, speeches move, and praise pleases the ego, but none of them carry the same weight as repeated action over time. Machiavelli understood that the appearance of virtue often serves as a carefully constructed mask to gain trust before revealing hidden interests. This is exactly why a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires abandoning the habit of judging people by the best versions they present of themselves. Those who truly wish to develop strategic intelligence learn to ask a simple question: does this attitude confirm what was said? If the answer is no, the action always deserves more credibility than the discourse. Imagine a friend who claims to always be available, but disappears precisely when you face difficulties. Think of a leader who talks daily about respecting the team, but humiliates employees when under pressure. Or in someone who has been promising to change their behavior for years, while continuing to repeat the exact same mistakes. In these situations, there is no mystery. The behavior has already given away the answer that the words tried to hide. Virtù and fortuna favor those who learn this difference early on, because they stop investing time, energy, and expectations in promises that will never become reality. This doesn't mean living in constant distrust of everyone, much less turning every relationship into a permanent investigation. The true observer simply understands that consistency is worth more than intensity. A single extraordinary action impresses. Dozens of similar small actions reveal character. That's why serious companies analyze history before hiring someone. Investors observe results before investing money, and experienced leaders never make decisions based on real human nature just because they heard a nice speech. They look for patterns. An excellent exercise to develop this skill is to get into the habit of waiting a little longer before forming definitive opinions about someone. Instead of asking if a certain person seems trustworthy, ask yourself if they maintain the same behavior when no one is watching. Instead of immediately believing in grand promises, observe how they handle small, everyday commitments. Someone who is constantly late, breaks simple agreements, and makes excuses for everything is unlikely to change just because they made a nicer promise. Machiavelli knew that better to be feared than loved didn't mean acting harshly all the time, but understanding that reality rarely rewards those who are guided only by emotions or well-chosen words. Ultimately, the end justifies the means only when the means are supported by concrete actions, calculated use of force when necessary, and constant adaptability in the face of people who reveal their true nature long before they realize they are being observed. And when someone learns to see this difference, they inevitably begin to realize that behind almost every action lies a much deeper motivation than it appears at first glance. Few people realize that human behavior functions like an iceberg. What appears on the surface almost never represents the whole story. Most people only observe visible attitudes, but true strategists focus their attention on what remains hidden. Machiavelli understood that no important decision is born by chance. There is always an interest, a fear, an expectation, or a need driving someone's choices, even when that person doesn't admit it even to themselves. This is why a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, invites us to abandon superficial interpretations and develop the habit of silently asking, what is really motivating this attitude? This simple question completely changes the way we see the world. Suddenly, excessive kindness can reveal a request that hasn't yet been made. Constant praise can hide an attempt to gain influence. A seemingly innocent criticism can stem from insecurity, competition, or resentment. This doesn't mean concluding that all people have bad intentions, but understanding that practically everyone has interests, conscious or unconscious. Those who learn to observe in this way stop reacting only to what happens before their eyes and begin to understand the invisible forces that drive each situation. It is precisely there that virtue and fortuna begin to walk hand in hand, because luck usually favors those who see beyond the surface. In practice, this perspective can be trained in extremely common situations. Imagine a coworker who suddenly starts praising all your ideas after months of keeping their distance. Instead of immediately accepting this change as a spontaneous demonstration of admiration, it's worth observing the context. Was there a promotion in contention? Did an important project begin? Did this person suddenly need your collaboration? Similarly, when someone withdraws without a clear explanation, it doesn't always represent rejection. Perhaps they are facing personal problems, perhaps their priorities have changed, or perhaps they are reacting to something you haven't even noticed. The answers won't always be known, but the simple exercise of investigating possibilities reduces hasty interpretations. Machiavelli would never advise anyone to live trapped in conspiracy theories. On the contrary, his reflections point to something much more intelligent. Decisions based on real human nature require curiosity, patience, and a willingness to gather evidence before forming definitive judgments. The end justifies the means, not because any action is acceptable, but because understanding the true motives behind actions allows one to choose the most effective means to deal with each situation. This is the kind of clarity that avoids unnecessary conflicts, strengthens negotiations, and prevents someone from being easily manipulated by appearances. However, there is a silent obstacle that can destroy all this capacity for perception, even in extremely intelligent people, and it is born within the mind itself, long before any external influence appears. There's a trap that brings down intelligent, experienced people and even admired leaders. believing they are seeing reality when, in fact, they are only seeing the reflection of their own emotions. Anger accelerates conclusions, fear exaggerates threats, euphoria creates unrealistic expectations, and pride makes any criticism seem like a personal attack. Under these conditions, the mind stops analyzing and only reacts. Machiavelli understood that whoever loses control over themselves unknowingly hands control over to others. After all, a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands that reason occupy the place normally taken by impulses. Just observe how many arguments started because of a misinterpreted message, how many friendships ended because of a hasty conclusion, or how many opportunities were wasted because someone decided to act in the first moments of indignation. In almost all these cases, the problem was not only the situation, but the speed with which an emotion took command. Manipulative people know this mechanism very well. They provoke, pressure, make insinuations, or create scenarios of urgency precisely to prevent the other person from thinking calmly. When someone manages to arouse your anger, fear, or anxiety, they become much more able to predict your reactions. This is precisely why Machiavelli valued constant adaptability so much. Those who master their own emotions remain free to choose the most intelligent response, while those who react impulsively end up playing exactly the game the other person has prepared. A simple exercise can completely transform this skill. Whenever a situation arises that evokes intense emotion, instead of reacting immediately, try creating a small interval between the stimulus and the reaction. It could be a 5-minute walk, a night's sleep before sending that message, or even the habit of asking yourself, am I responding to the facts or just to what I'm feeling at this moment? This pause seems small, but it completely changes the quality of decisions. Great negotiators do this. Experienced leaders do this. Successful investors do this when the market panics. They understand that decisions based on real human nature are rarely made at the height of emotion. Virtù and fortuna favor those who can remain lucid when everyone around them is overwhelmed by chaos. This doesn't mean hiding feelings or pretending they don't exist. It means acknowledging their presence without allowing them to drive important choices. Better to be feared than loved can also be interpreted as the ability to convey stability when everyone expects an emotional outburst. This serenity creates respect, reduces unnecessary conflict, and hinders any attempt at manipulation. The end justifies the means when those means preserve clarity of thought and the calculated use of force only when truly necessary. And when the mind finally learns not to react automatically, it begins to notice details that previously went completely unnoticed, small signs that almost always announce problems long before they become impossible to ignore. One of the biggest mistakes a person can make is believing that major problems arise suddenly. In reality, almost all of them announce their arrival long before they become impossible to ignore. The difference is that these warnings are usually discreet, almost silent, and therefore end up being dismissed as unimportant. Machiavelli understood that those who wish to remain ahead of events need to develop the ability to perceive the small before it becomes something big. This is the essence of a politics guided by reality, not by ideals. While most people wait for irrefutable proof to act, the strategist observes patterns still in formation. Think of an employee who starts arriving 5 minutes late once a week, a friend who makes small offensive jokes and then says, "It was just a joke," a business partner who forgets simple details of an agreement but always presents a convincing justification. In isolation, each episode seems irrelevant. However, when these situations begin to repeat themselves, they cease to be exceptions and become a portrait of that person's behavior. The problem is that many ignore these signs because they want to believe that everything will improve naturally. They prefer to protect hope rather than observe reality. Machiavelli knew that decisions based on true human nature require the courage to see what emotion tries to hide. Virtù and fortuna favor those who identify trends before they solidify, because acting early almost always costs less than trying to repair a major loss later. This doesn't mean turning every mistake into a definitive condemnation. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone has difficult days, and everyone deserves the opportunity to correct a slip-up. The secret lies in differentiating an isolated episode from recurring behavior. It is precisely this repetition that reveals the true pattern. A good exercise is to abandon the habit of automatically justifying everything people do and start mentally recording what is repeated. If someone breaks their word once, it may have been unforeseen. If this happens 5, 6, or 10 times, perhaps that person's word has less value than they would like others to believe. If a leader demonstrates disrespect only at specific moments, it's worth observing if there is a context. But if this behavior appears whenever they have an advantage over someone, the pattern begins to speak louder than any discourse. The end justifies the means only when the means preserve the ability to see the facts without emotional filters. Better to be feared than loved also involves building clear boundaries in the face of small disrespects, because those who accept everything at the beginning usually face much greater consequences in the future. The appearance of virtue can hide intentions that take months to surface, and the calculated use of force often means acting early, firmly, and with balance before the situation gets out of control. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust course as new signs emerge, but there is an even more powerful tool for understanding people, learning to speak less and observe more, because many reveal who they really are precisely when they believe no one is paying attention. We live in a time when almost everyone feels the need to respond immediately, defend their opinion at any cost, and prove they know more than others. However, there is a silent advantage that few people develop: the ability to remain silent while everyone around them talks. This may seem like passivity to an outside observer, but in practice, it is one of the most powerful skills for understanding human nature. Machiavelli understood that information is a form of power, and those who reveal all their ideas at the beginning of a conversation lose the opportunity to discover what is really going on in the other person's mind. This is why a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, values listening more than the constant need to be heard. When a person feels they are not being interrupted or judged, they naturally begin to talk more. First, they share facts, then opinions, then emotions, and without realizing it, they reveal priorities, insecurities, ambitions, and even contradictions. The most curious thing is that this happens every day. In work meetings, family gatherings, negotiations, and even casual conversations. While many are preoccupied with formulating their next response, the true strategist is gathering valuable information. Virtue and fortune favor those who know how to wait, because time often causes masks to fall without the need for confrontation. In many cases, silence obtains answers that no direct question could reach. A simple way to develop this skill is to try halving the time you spend speaking in an important conversation. Instead of interrupting someone to recount a similar experience, ask another question. Instead of immediately filling a moment of silence, allow it to exist for a few seconds. It's impressive how this small space makes people continue talking, often revealing details they didn't initially intend to share. Great negotiators frequently use this technique. Experienced investigators know that silence generates discomfort, and discomfort often leads someone to explain more than they should. This doesn't mean manipulating people dishonestly, but understanding how communication really works. Machiavelli argued that decisions based on real human nature depend on reliable information, and hardly anyone obtains this information by monopolizing a conversation. Better to be feared than loved can also be understood as the posture of someone who conveys security without needing to convince anyone through excessive words. The appearance of virtue can be built with impeccable speeches, but it begins to unravel when the individual speaks long enough to reveal their inconsistencies. The end justifies the means when the means consist of observing intelligently, practicing the calculated use of force only when necessary, and maintaining constant adaptability in the face of the different personalities that arise along the way. And there is a moment when all these observations become even more valuable, when life puts people under pressure, because it is precisely there that what was hidden ceases to be able to remain hidden. It's very easy to appear patient when everything is going well. It's also simple to demonstrate generosity when there's nothing at stake, to remain calm when no one disagrees, or to talk about principles when no difficult decisions need to be made. The real test, however, begins when comfort disappears. Machiavelli understood that circumstances don't create character. They only reveal what already existed hidden. Therefore, a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that one shouldn't judge a person solely by their best days, but mainly by how they react when faced with losses, criticism, pressure, or uncertainty. Just observe what happens in a company during a financial crisis. Some leaders take responsibility, organize solutions, and protect their teams. Others look for culprits, spread fear, and make impulsive decisions simply to preserve their own image. The difference between them didn't arise at that moment. It simply became impossible to hide. The same happens in friendships, relationships, and partnerships. While everything is working, almost everyone manages to maintain an appearance of virtue. But as soon as a significant obstacle arises, the true personality begins to emerge. Virtue and fortune favor those who learn to perceive these transformations without being deceived by first impressions. After all, decisions based on real human nature require observing people in different scenarios, not just when everything seems perfect. A practical way to apply this teaching is to abandon the habit of forming definitive opinions too early. Before fully trusting someone, observe how that person reacts when they receive a no, when they miss an important opportunity, when they have to deal with criticism, or when their plans fail. Those who treat well only those who can offer advantages will hardly maintain the same behavior when they no longer need them. Those who explode at minor setbacks will likely have even less control in bigger challenges. On the other hand, people who maintain their composure even in difficult times tend to inspire confidence because they demonstrate self-control before trying to control any external situation. Machiavelli understood that better to be feared than loved did not mean cultivating an aggressive posture, but transmitting stability amidst chaos, because nothing generates more respect than someone who continues to think clearly when everyone around them has lost their composure. The end justifies the means when those means include emotional preparedness, calculated use of force only at the appropriate moment, and constant adaptability in the face of unpredictable circumstances. Great military leaders, successful business people, and experienced negotiators share precisely this characteristic. They don't judge people solely by what they say or do in easy times, but by the behavior they demonstrate when pressure removes all masks. And there's a specific type of emotion that tends to appear precisely in these moments of tension. A silent emotion that few can identify, but which reveals hidden intentions with impressive clarity. Few emotions can hide, as well as envy. Unlike anger, which usually manifests itself openly, or joy, which is rarely unnoticed, envy prefers to act in silence. It wears elegant clothes, smiles for photographs, offers superficial compliments, and often even presents itself as support. Machiavelli understood that one of the biggest mistakes of those who wish to grow is believing that everyone will be happy with their progress. Reality rarely works that way. In a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, it is necessary to accept that every change of position also alters how others see you. When someone begins to prosper, gain recognition, or develop above-average skills, it inevitably sparks comparisons. And comparisons, when poorly managed, often turn into resentment. It is at this moment that seemingly innocent comments arise, repeated jokes about your goals, praise accompanied by irony, or that enthusiasm that disappears just when you achieve something important. The appearance of virtue causes many people to hide this feeling even from themselves. They will hardly say they are bothered by your growth. Instead, they will try to subtly diminish it, questioning your decisions, downplaying your results, or planting doubts where enthusiasm once existed. Virtù and fortuna favor those who learn to recognize these movements without falling into the naivety of believing that all criticism stems from good intentions or that all praise represents genuine admiration. This doesn't mean treating every disagreement as envy or imagining that everyone is competing against you. That stance would be as harmful as completely ignoring the signs. The true strategist observes patterns. Notice who sincerely celebrates your victories without turning the conversation into a competition. Observe who remains present even when you cease to be convenient. Compare this to those who completely change their behavior after you get a promotion, start a successful business, improve your life, or simply develop more discipline. Often envy doesn't appear in direct attacks, but in absence. The person stops responding to messages, shows indifference to your achievements, or starts highlighting only your mistakes, completely ignoring your successes. Machiavelli knew that decisions based on real human nature require understanding that not all opposition is rational. Some arise simply from the difficulty certain people have in accepting the success of others. Better to be feared than loved can also be understood as the stance of someone who doesn't shape their life to avoid causing discomfort to others. The end justifies the means when the means consist of preserving focus, using calculated force only to establish clear limits, and maintaining constant adaptability in the face of the inevitable changes that growth brings to human relationships. After all, those who constantly try to please those bothered by their evolution end up handing their destiny over to people who never wanted to see them reach their true potential. And this need to please, however harmless it may seem, is often one of the biggest gateways to manipulation. There is a prison that has no bars, locks, or walls, but manages to limit the lives of millions of people every day. It arises when someone becomes dependent on the approval of others to feel secure about their own decisions. Initially, this seems like mere politeness or a desire to maintain good relationships. However, over time, it transforms into a silent habit of abandoning convictions to avoid criticism, hiding opinions to avoid discomfort, and postponing dreams for fear of others' judgment. Machiavelli understood that those who give others the power to validate their choices will hardly remain in control of their own destiny. A politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that no important decision will be unanimous. There will always be those who criticize, who doubt, and who try to convince you to remain exactly where you are. Just observe the trajectory of any entrepreneur, leader, or professional who has achieved extraordinary results. Before the applause, almost all faced distrust. Before recognition, they heard discouraging comments. Before success, they were called exaggerated dreamers or reckless. The appearance of virtue causes many people to hide their true opinions to preserve their own image. But those who constantly try to please everyone end up becoming predictable and easily manipulated. Virtue and fortune walk hand in hand with those who understand that true respect is born from consistency, not from the constant attempt to gain approval. After all, decisions based on real human nature require the courage to accept that some people will never agree with you, regardless of the quality of your choices. A practical way to break this cycle is to start identifying how many of your daily decisions are still influenced by the fear of others' opinions. How many times have you failed to start a project because you imagined someone would make a joke? How many opportunities have you refused simply to avoid criticism? How many times have you remained in environments that no longer made sense simply because you were afraid of people's reactions? These questions may cause discomfort, but they also reveal the extent of freedom that can still be achieved. Machiavelli never encouraged arrogance or disregard for the opinions of others. On the contrary, he understood that listening to advice was essential. The difference lies in who has the final say. Better to be feared than loved can be interpreted as the ability to preserve your authority over your own life, even when this displeases some of the people around you. The end justifies the means when those means consist of acting with integrity, establishing clear limits, resorting to the calculated use of force only to protect important principles, and developing constant adaptability without giving up one's own identity. Emotionally independent people become much harder to manipulate because praise ceases to inflate their ego and criticism no longer controls their actions. And when this need for approval finally loses its power, a much more important question arises than what do others think of me? What do their attitudes reveal about what they truly value? It is precisely this shift in focus that allows us to understand the hidden priorities behind each behavior. One of the most powerful questions one can learn to ask is not, what does this person say they value, but rather, what do they demonstrate they value through their own choices? This small shift in perspective eliminates much of the illusion that often confuses relationships, business dealings, and even how we see ourselves. Machiavelli understood that words can be carefully planned, but repeated actions rarely manage to hide true priorities for very long. This is precisely why a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, invites us to observe where people invest their most precious resources: time, energy, attention, and money. Someone might claim that family is their highest priority, but never be present during important moments. They might say they value health while completely ignoring their daily habits. They might promise commitment to a project, but always find time for distractions and never for what they should really be doing. These contradictions don't exist because people want to lie all the time. Often, they themselves believe the discourse they repeat. However, it is behavior that reveals the truth. Virtue and fortune favor those who learn to see this difference, because they stop judging intentions and start analyzing evidence. Those who make decisions based on real human nature understand that priorities are never defined by what comes out of someone's mouth, but by the destiny each person gives to the hours of their own day. This principle should also be applied when looking at yourself. Before evaluating the priorities of others, it's worth doing a sincere exercise in front of the mirror. Ask yourself, if someone were to observe only my actions over the last 6 months, what priorities would they identify? Perhaps you say you want to build wealth, but spend more time consuming entertainment than studying investments. Perhaps you claim you want to strengthen your relationships, but almost never set aside quality time for those you love. Perhaps you dream of professional growth, while wasting opportunities waiting for the perfect motivation. Machiavelli knew that the end justifies the means only when there is coherence between what one intends to achieve and what one does daily. Better to be feared than loved can also be understood as the discipline of respecting one's own commitments, even when no one is watching. The appearance of virtue may convince for a while, but it inevitably loses strength in the face of repeated real behaviors. The calculated use of force in this context means directing energy towards what produces concrete results, avoiding dispersion in objectives incompatible with your daily choices. Constant adaptability allows you to reorganize priorities as life changes, but it never replaces the need to act consistently. When you learn to read the priorities hidden in people's actions, you stop creating expectations based on promises and start building much more solid relationships, partnerships, and decisions. And little by little, you realize that there is a skill capable of bringing all these teachings together in a single daily habit, developing such refined attention that practically nothing important goes unnoticed. After understanding that words can deceive, that emotions can distort judgments, and that actions reveal priorities, an inevitable question arises: how to transform all this knowledge into a permanent habit? The answer lies in conscious observation. No one is born with this skill fully developed. Just as a musician trains their ear to perceive notes that other people don't identify, or a doctor learns to recognize subtle signs that go unnoticed by most, anyone can train their mind to see invisible patterns in human behavior. Machiavelli understood that true power lay not only in reacting correctly to events, but in perceiving changes before they became evident to everyone. This is the essence of a politics guided by reality, not by ideals. The attentive observer is not limited to words. They notice changes in tone of voice, speed of response, enthusiasm that suddenly disappears, unexpected silences, and even the way a person treats individuals who seemingly cannot offer them any advantage. They also observe the environment. They notice who naturally leads a conversation, who avoids responsibilities, who constantly seeks recognition, and who prefers to work in silence. Gradually, these small pieces of information cease to seem like isolated details and begin to form an extremely accurate picture of reality. Virtù and fortuna favor those who develop this type of awareness, because most important problems never arise without leaving traces. They announce their arrival in small changes in behavior that only a trained eye can identify. This training can begin today without any sophisticated tools. During a conversation, instead of paying attention only to the content of the words, observe the rhythm of speech, the pauses, the coherence between facial expression and what is being said. In a meeting, try to identify who truly influences decisions, regardless of their position. In a restaurant, notice how someone treats the employees. In a work environment, observe who spontaneously assumes responsibilities and who always seeks justifications to avoid commitments. These exercises seem simple, but they profoundly transform the way you understand people. Machiavelli never suggested living in a permanent state of distrust. On the contrary, his teaching always pointed to a lucid reading of reality, based on decisions grounded in real human nature, and not on idealized expectations. Better to be feared than loved also means developing a confident presence built on clarity and self-control, instead of depending on the constant validation of others. The end justifies the means when those means consist of cultivating mental discipline, practicing the calculated use of force only when necessary, and maintaining constant adaptability in the face of life's inevitable changes. Over time, observation ceases to be a conscious effort and becomes part of one's own personality. It is at this moment that intelligence ceases to be merely accumulated knowledge and becomes a way of seeing the world. And when this vision finally consolidates, it becomes possible to understand that the true objective was never to live distrusting everyone, but to develop sufficient clarity to walk through life with security, discernment, and freedom. If you've made it this far, you've probably realized that the true secret of intelligence has never been about speaking louder, winning every argument, or convincing everyone that you're right. The real advantage lies in developing a perspective that few possess, a perspective capable of perceiving patterns before they become problems, intentions before they reveal themselves in actions, and opportunities before they disappear. It was precisely this way of thinking that made Machiavelli one of the most studied minds in history. His aim was never to teach people to live distrusting everyone, but to help them understand reality without the distortions created by naivete or excessive emotion. The more you practice a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, the more natural your decisions will become. Gradually, you will stop reacting impulsively and begin to act strategically, using decisions based on real human nature. Developing your virtù and fortuna, maintaining constant adaptability in the face of change, and understanding that the end justifies the means only when those means preserve your principles, your intelligence, and your discernment. At many moments, you will realize that better to be feared than loved means inspiring respect through firmness and consistency, never leaving room to be easily manipulated. Similarly, you will understand when the appearance of virtue is hiding ulterior motives and how to apply the calculated use of force. Only in situations where it truly makes sense. Now I want to hear from you. What lesson has most changed the way you see people? Is there any behavior you've started to identify after watching this video? Or perhaps a situation from your past that finally makes sense? Write your answer in the comments. I want to read about your experience, because often one person's learning helps hundreds of others who are experiencing the exact same challenge. And if this content made you reflect differently on human nature, take this moment to leave your like. This shows YouTube that this knowledge deserves to reach more people who are still making decisions based only on appearances. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and continue this journey. With each new video, you will develop a more strategic, clearer vision and be much more prepared to understand how the world really works. Knowledge can open doors, but the ability to see what others ignore is what truly transforms a person into someone difficult to deceive.